I don't
Okay.
know, because the story of Job is awful. It's so awful.
I was trying to think of just any, like, that's how bad this story is in the Bible. Like, you take any other parable, and you can be like, oh, the fish and the, fucking bread that he fed everybody with. That shows that he gave everybody a bunch of food. It's a good moral. If you got food, give it to people. Help them out. You can even pull something out of that. With Job, you have to sit there and think, like, maybe he was, no, because he gets, no, oh, God damn. So basically, Job, the story of Job is, if you read through the Bible and you've made it to Job and you're still somehow a Christian, like, Job's gonna fucking do you in. Like, you're not gonna. So basically, Job starts out very Game of Thronesy, where everything's being built up. Like, wow, what could go wrong here? Ned's got a handle on this whole thing. So Job was the best guy in the whole world. And God knew this. And everybody on Job's block knew that God thought that Job was the best. So there's a little bit of resentment right there right away. Everybody knows that Job's God's favorite.
But he earned
so the devil, who apparently can just, quaffly drift into wherever Jesus currently is, Jesus/God, one and the same. That's in later chapters. I didn't mean to spoil it. But
don't forget the Holy Ghost.
So
yeah, there's another one in there.
The Trinity.
One and a half. Well, half of one.
So Job basically
Good blade.
living his life, doing the best he can. Satan goes up to God and says, hey, that Job guy, he really loves you, but he's got like 12 kids. He's got a dope house. He's got more crops than he needs. He's got a bunch of animals. He only likes you because you gave him all that shit. And God was like, that's not true. That's horse shit. And I know that's not true because I'm God. Like, I know this. But anyway, God goes, okay, I'll indulge you, Satan. God often makes a game of indulging Satan at the expense of those he loves most. It's just something about God. And Satan goes, okay. And so Satan goes and he starts making Job's life as fucking terrible as possible. Starts out, what did he do first? I think boils might have been the first one. So basically,
the crops die. All of his animals die, and you gotta. It's not like his like 3 pigs died. Like herds and herds of multiple kinds of, thousands of goats and hundreds of cattle.
Think of this like a factory farm. He was like a big time dude. He wasn't like, oh no, Tracy and Susan, my goats. Like, it was like they didn't have names. They were thousands of goats. All of his livestock just dies, which is basically like all the money you have gone, and a bunch of predators or whoever else is just eating rotting meat. He still is like, you know what, God, that sucked, but I'm on your team. You're going to get me through this. And so the devil goes back to God and he's like, can I try something else? I didn't go the angle I should have. And God's like, fine, you fuck. Like, just get this done. We don't have that many pages in this book to spend on this one dude. And so he goes back, gives Job's entire family boils, pustules all over their body, erupting willy-nilly, just nastiness. They can't sit and eat dinner together. It's disgusting. No one trusts any kind of food that's creamy or indistinct textures.
It ruined couscous for me, Susan. God does this to us.
Yeah. No more quinoa in Job's house after the boils hit. They all sit there, and Job's family isn't quite as hot on this as him. They're like, God, this fucking sucks. And Job is still like, guys, we're sitting in a dope house. All the animals are dead, but we got food right now. God's on our side. So what if we're itchy for a few days? Satan goes back to God again, says, this fucker, actually, he's pretty tough. I got to hand it to you. And God's like, I know. I literally saw this coming. And Satan's like, all right, one more shot. And so he goes to Job's house. Job's out and about, taking care of things, taking care of business, needs to try and rebuild his empire.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry?
He's probably doing the Lord's work out there. He's proselytizing or whatever you call it. He's out there finding new followers.
To woke up tender to the bone, and he's like, I just have to spread the love of the Lord. And so he's out there doing his thing. The rest of Job's family is sleeping in. Like, this is fucking bullshit. God comes down, watches as Satan collapses the whole house on all of Job's children and his wives. I don't know. At least one. At least one wife, half a dozen to a dozen kids in there. Every one of them crushed to death. Crushed to death in Job's home amidst ashes and their boils. Just, you can still see, they can't even have an open casket funeral. And there's no land to bury them in because it's covered in shit and dead animals. And it's just horrific. And Job comes back, and it's almost like he sees it on the horizon. And he's like, oh, no. And he sprints over there, and he's, oh, no, Jesus, oh, God. And he tears his clothes, probably tearing a few of those like pustules off as well because he's so overtaken by grief, and he's just sitting in the burnt out remains of his home, and he's just rubbing soil and ash onto himself. And as this is happening, it pans up to heaven, and it shows God and Satan sitting there, and God goes, "See, I told you he wouldn't betray me." And
the devil goes, and the devil looks to God and says, "Well, you won again. Here you are, $1."
Brewster's millions.
Wow. That's it. There's no redemption. There's no redemption at the end.
That's
like
it.
At the
end of the book.
Day, God doesn't even step in and tell Job what happened. He didn't even step in and be like, "Hey, Job, it's been a lot of nonsense. Just to let you know, you were a pawn in my game, and we won. Hooray!" But really sorry about that. He doesn't even step in. He doesn't even call back and let him know what happened. He just lets him live the rest of his shitty life in squalor. So he did win the bet. And if you can find some kind of moral in there, other than like don't trust deities, then I don't know.
Don't trust God, because he'll sell you out for a little street cred to the Lord of Darkness himself.
His whole family went to a better place.
I am a better friend to you than that.
That's horrible. If I were to tell the people at fucking a Tex-Mex restaurant that it was your birthday so we could get free dessert, I would feel bad about that, much less sabotaging your whole life to win a bet where nothing was wagered. Like, if you own everything in existence and you can summon things just by will, what could you possibly bet? Like, how could it be fun to bet if you already know the end game? I don't know, but it's an interesting story, and I probably got some of it right.
That sounds all like factually exactly like the way I remember it from Sunday school. Like that's absolutely right. I remember the preacher talking about him. He specifically talked about being in the soot and the ashes and how he's rubbing that all over his body and the wailing, praying the whole time. Forgive me for whatever I've done to deserve this, Lord. That's his whole thing. The whole time that he's suffering. Terrible story. I can't find the moral there. I don't get it. It makes me feel real bad.
Perhaps my parents will call